Hi, this is Superintendent of Schools Bill Olson with a school system update. I want to thank our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Kerry Cleary, for an excellent presentation of our MCAS results from last spring. As you know, those have recently been released, and Dr. Cleary presented to the school committee very clearly and succinctly data pertaining to our students' performance. Once again, our students did extraordinarily well on the MCAS, keeping in mind once again that it is one data point about student success, that there are many, many other ways of measuring student success and not only the MCAS. And unfortunately, I think sometimes we put too much emphasis on that particular source of data. So I want to thank her again. Great job. This year in particular, the state has changed its accountability process and criteria. It's very complex. A lot of educators have expressed some concern about the fact that it's relatively complicated compared to the accountability criteria and measurement in the past. This year, the Department of Education has come up with a sort of a two-variable component to assessing school system accountability on the MCAS. One is a criterion referenced component, which essentially is an indicator of mastery of content. And the second component is a norming component, which gives a relative comparison of Westford students to other students around the state. The state combines data from both of those to provide us with an accountability ranking. And we've done, once again, very well in relation to most other school systems, and certainly all school systems taken as an average across the state. We're right now in the process of developing our fiscal 2020 budget. Dr. Cleary and others of our administrative team are meeting with our school principals and other relevant parties, coordinators, etc., who have issues to discuss with us that may have a financial or staffing impact. When looking at the development of our fiscal year's budget, what we try our best not to do is engage in incremental budgeting. In other words, if you gave us $100 million one year, give us $110 million, the next year we'll do something great with it. Those days are long gone in municipal management and school system management. We try to take a look very carefully at the needs of our students, the needs of our staff, and take a look at what services are required to provide intervention services or direct instructional services in the classroom to students that might be different than what we're offering right now. One of the first things we do is we look for opportunities for savings or efficiencies. Just because we have a program that lasts maybe 1, 2, or 3, or 4 or more years, that doesn't mean that that program can't be replaced by something more efficient or more effective. So we look at that constantly in terms of the development of our budget. We look at enrollment. We look at our transportation needs, our townwide development needs. How many students do we expect to come from new residential developments? I know the 2 new apartment complexes that are very large that involve over 400 residential units of housing in the Robinson-Crisafulli district in the southern part of town, just south of Route 495, will consist of more than 400 units. And we're anticipating a fairly significant increase in our enrollment as a result of that. In addition to the academic requirements and the needs of students, we look at their social and emotional well-being. What is it that we need to do to better connect and better understand students and what's going on in their lives, whether they're a preschool student or in grade 12. We look at our curriculum offerings. We look at should we discontinue certain courses that don't have a significant degree of enrollment. We look at what is our need in terms of technology and media services. How does that help us deliver content to students? And how does that allow our students to access as much relevant information and accurate and truthful information on the global network? We look at and encourage any innovation that we might be able to take advantage of in the school system, any innovative practices or processes or curriculum content. We look at what co-curricular activities might we want to add to supplement what we have right now, because that's all part of student development. We look at our professional development offerings, what's necessary to help our staff continue to grow in terms of their competencies and their capacities, which has a direct impact on the effectiveness of instruction in our classrooms at all levels. We look at how much we might need for materials and maintenance and fees, facilities planning and capital planning. You know, I just mentioned fees a minute ago. None of us enjoys assessing fees. You know, this was something that was begun about 15 years ago at least, has become a reality, I think, across the country in public education, particularly in this state where the Proposition 2.5 revenue-raising limitations continue to make it difficult for municipalities to fund budgets that represent progressiveness and improvements of services to constituents, whether they're school children or townwide citizens. Right now, we're in the process also of developing our capital plan. The card swipe secure entry system will be a top priority for our fiscal 20 capital plan. Shifting away from budget items, the school committee has recently had the first reading of our security camera policy. This is a policy that every school system has security cameras needs to have to allow parents and staff to know what the rules and parameters are in terms of the use and viewing capabilities of footage that is taken during the school day in commonplace areas, not in areas of privacy. I want to remind you again, we're in the process of doing the school calendar survey. I would encourage you to take a look at your email, because we sent that out last week. You have until about November 2nd. You have until November 2nd to complete that survey, which is going to be very important to us in terms of the construction of future school calendars. Recently participated in a cable program with former Representative Jeff Hall and current Representative Jim Marciero. We talked about school security. We'll follow up hopefully with another program. I want to remind you at this point in the year, as we begin to enter the winter season with snow and ice and inclement weather, on the other end of the school year, towards the end of June, we remind everyone, our staff and families, please be careful not to plan vacations or trips too close to the anticipated end of the school year. As you remember, last year we had 9 no school days, the largest number I can ever remember since I've been in education. It doesn't mean that this year it will happen again, but just a word of caution about being careful in terms of the date and time frame in which you plan school vacations. Talking about inclement weather, the state is expected to come out with some further updates and clarification on alternative structured learning time. As you remember, last year we used distance learning as a means of recouping some of the lost school days. We did it on for 3 different days, and we made up 3 days in the school year. We're anticipating doing that more in real time this year, not after the fact. We did it after the fact last year once we knew that we needed to make up some days with losing 4 days in March. This year we're going to do it in real time when there's an actual snowstorm anticipated. So we'll be sending out some information on that. We're waiting some further guidance from the state. It's always interesting, and that's what makes the job so enjoyable. It's Bill Olson. Hope to see you next time.